What if the most feared enemy of an empire was not a king, not a general, and not a mighty warrior? What if that enemy was a woman? A woman whose courage terrified an army. A woman history would never forget. Deep within the jungles of Aceh, fear moved silently through the darkness. Dutch soldiers marched carefully beneath heavy rain clouds. Their rifles were ready. Their nerves were breaking. Because somewhere beyond the trees, hidden by shadows and storm, was a name they had learned to fear. A name whispered around campfires. A name carried through battlefields. Nyak Dhien. She was not leading an empire. She did not command vast armies. Yet her presence alone could unsettle experienced soldiers. That is the power of a legend. To understand her story, we must return to a time when Aceh was engulfed in war. A time when smoke covered the horizon. A time when survival itself became a daily struggle. A time of impossible choices. The Aceh War was one of the longest and most brutal conflicts in colonial history. It consumed lives. It consumed resources. And it tested the spirit of an entire people. Villages burned beneath cannon fire. Families were forced to flee their homes. Fear traveled from one community to another. No one escaped the consequences of war. The Dutch possessed modern weapons, trained soldiers, and vast resources. Their leaders expected victory. They believed resistance would eventually collapse. They were mistaken. Among the people of Aceh stood individuals who refused to surrender. Men and women alike chose resistance. They chose sacrifice. They chose defiance. Nyak Dhien was one of them. Born into a respected Acehnese family, she understood both privilege and responsibility, and history was about to test her. At first, she was a witness to conflict. She watched the war spread across her homeland. She saw destruction approach communities she loved. She saw suffering grow. Each passing day brought new tragedies. Each battle left new scars. The war was no longer distant. It was becoming personal. Then came the moment that changed everything. A devastating loss struck her family. The violence of war reached directly into her life. Nothing would ever be the same again. Many people would have chosen despair. Many would have accepted defeat. Many would have stepped away from the struggle. Nyak Dhien did the opposite. Grief entered her heart. But grief was not the only thing that entered. Determination arrived as well. And determination proved stronger. The loss of loved ones could have broken her spirit. Instead, it hardened her resolve. Pain became purpose. Sorrow became strength. Something extraordinary happens when a person discovers a cause worth sacrificing for. Fear loses its power. Comfort becomes irrelevant. Only the mission remains. That transformation was beginning inside Nyak Dhien. The woman who once watched the war from a distance was preparing to step directly into its flames. History was calling her name. The road ahead promised hardship. There would be loss. There would be suffering. There would be sacrifice. But there would also be courage. The kind of courage that inspires generations. The kind that survives long after battles end. The kind that becomes legend. Soon Aceh would witness something remarkable. A woman rising against an empire. A leader emerging from tragedy. A lioness awakening. The Dutch saw a rebellion. The people of Aceh saw hope. The difference between those perspectives would shape the course of the war. And as the conflict intensified, Nyak Dhien would face a choice that defined her life. Submit to overwhelming power, or continue fighting against impossible odds. She made her choice. And from that moment forward, the empire hunting her would discover a difficult truth. Some spirits cannot be conquered. Once Nyak Dhien chose resistance, there was no turning back. The path ahead offered no comfort and no guarantees. Only struggle awaited her. Yet she embraced it willingly. The war intensified across Aceh. Battles erupted in villages, forests, and mountain passes. Every victory carried a cost. Every defeat demanded resilience. Dutch commanders believed superior resources would eventually secure success. Their army was larger. Their weapons were more advanced. Their confidence remained high. But wars are not won by weapons alone. Determination can become a force of its own. And the people of Aceh possessed determination in abundance. They refused to surrender. Nyak Dhien became increasingly involved in the resistance. She supported operations. She encouraged fighters. She strengthened morale. Her influence extended beyond military strategy. She became a symbol, a living reminder that resistance remained possible. A source of inspiration. Stories about her courage spread quickly. From village to village. From fighter to fighter. Her reputation continued growing. The Dutch noticed this as well. Reports began mentioning her name more frequently. Commanders understood her importance. She was becoming a significant figure. Meanwhile, the conflict showed no signs of ending. Both sides endured hardships. Both sides suffered losses. Neither side was willing to quit. For ordinary civilians, the war brought constant uncertainty. Families lived with fear. Communities faced disruption. The future remained unclear. Yet even during difficult times, hope survived. People found strength in shared purpose. They found courage in collective resistance. They refused to abandon their homeland. One of the most important figures in this struggle was Teuku Umar, a respected leader and skilled strategist. His role in the resistance became legendary, and his partnership with Nyak Dhien became equally remarkable. Together they formed a powerful alliance. Their strengths complemented one another. Their goals aligned. Their commitment never wavered. For Dutch authorities, this partnership created serious challenges. Resistance efforts became more coordinated. Operations became more effective. Frustration increased. Again and again, Acehnese fighters demonstrated adaptability. They knew the terrain. They understood the environment. They used every advantage available. Guerrilla tactics complicated Dutch operations. Fighters appeared unexpectedly. They struck quickly, then disappeared into the jungle. This style of warfare demanded patience and discipline. It relied on mobility. It relied on local knowledge, and it often proved effective. Dutch commanders struggled with the uncertainty. Traditional strategies did not always work. Predicting resistance movements became difficult. The conflict dragged on. As months turned into years, the war became a test of endurance, not only of military strength, but of human will. Nyak Dhien continued standing at the center of that struggle. Her determination remained visible. Her commitment remained unshaken. Her influence continued growing. Yet prolonged conflict extracts a heavy price. Resources become scarce. Exhaustion accumulates. Losses increase. Even the strongest leaders face moments of doubt. Even the bravest fighters experience fear. War tests everyone. No one escapes unchanged. Still, Nyak Dhien pushed forward. She understood what was at stake. The future of her homeland mattered more than personal comfort, more than personal safety. But the greatest challenges were still ahead. The war would soon demand sacrifices beyond imagination. And one devastating loss was approaching fast. A loss that would change everything. The war continued year after year. Neither side achieved the decisive victory it wanted. Every campaign demanded sacrifice. Every season brought new hardships. Among the leaders of the resistance, Teuku Umar stood out. His courage inspired confidence. His strategies challenged Dutch operations. His reputation spread across Aceh. Together, Teuku Umar and Nyak Dhien became symbols of resistance. Many people saw them as proof that determination could stand against overwhelming power. Their partnership inspired hope. The Dutch understood their influence. Eliminating resistance leaders became a priority. Military pressure increased. The conflict grew more dangerous. Battles became increasingly intense. Every encounter carried risk. Every mission could become the last. The stakes continued rising. Yet despite the danger, resistance fighters persisted. They knew the struggle was larger than themselves. They fought for their homeland. They fought for future generations. Then came a devastating blow, one of the most painful moments in Nyak Dhien's life, a moment that tested her spirit. More than any battle ever had, Teuku Umar was killed. The news spread quickly through the resistance. Shock turned into grief. Grief turned into silence. For many people, it felt impossible to believe. A leader admired by so many was gone. The loss created a deep wound. The movement mourned. For Nyak Dhien, the pain was personal. She had already endured tremendous loss. Now war had taken another person she loved. The burden grew heavier. Few experiences challenge the human heart more than repeated loss. It can weaken determination. It can create despair. It can break even strong people. Many observers expected her to step away from the struggle. They expected grief to end her resistance. They expected exhaustion to prevail. They underestimated her. Instead of retreating, she continued. Instead of surrendering, she persisted. Instead of abandoning the cause, she embraced it even more strongly. Pain became fuel. Loss became motivation. The hardships she endured strengthened her resolve. Her commitment deepened. This transformation inspired those around her. Fighters saw her courage. Communities saw her resilience. Hope survived because she survived. Yet determination alone cannot erase hardship. The realities of prolonged war remained severe. Resources dwindled. Conditions worsened. Food became increasingly difficult to obtain. Supplies became scarce. Movement became dangerous. Every day presented new challenges. The resistance adapted as best it could. But survival itself required constant effort. Life in the jungle was demanding. Comfort became a distant memory. As the years passed, Nyak Dhien grew older. The physical toll of war accumulated. The hardships left their mark. Time spared no one. Her health began to decline. Her body no longer possessed the strength of youth. Simple tasks became more difficult. The struggle grew heavier. Even so, she refused to quit. She continued encouraging resistance fighters. She continued supporting the cause. She continued standing firm. To her followers, this was extraordinary. Many people would have chosen safety. Many would have accepted defeat. She chose neither. Her determination became legendary. The Dutch respected it. The people admired it. History remembered it. But while enemies failed to defeat her in battle, another threat was approaching quietly. A threat far more complicated than warfare. A threat from within her own circle. By now, years of conflict had changed everything. The war had taken lives, homes, and opportunities. Yet one thing remained unchanged. Nyak Dhien's determination. Her followers admired her strength. But they also saw something she could not hide. The years were taking their toll. Her health was fading. The hardships of life in the jungle accumulated. Constant movement exhausted the body. Limited food weakened the spirit. The struggle grew heavier every day. Her eyesight began to deteriorate. Tasks that once felt simple became difficult. The physical burdens increased. Yet she refused to stop. Many leaders would have stepped aside. Many would have sought safety. Many would have accepted their limitations. Nyak Dhien did not. She continued inspiring resistance fighters. She continued supporting the cause she believed in. Even as her body weakened, her resolve remained strong. However, those closest to her saw the reality. They saw her suffering. They saw her exhaustion. And they worried. Some feared she was sacrificing too much. Others feared she would eventually die in hiding. The situation created painful questions. Questions with no easy answers. One loyal follower faced a terrible dilemma. He respected her deeply. He admired her courage. But he could no longer ignore her condition. Every day he watched her struggle. Every day he saw her push beyond her limits. Every day he feared the inevitable. Something had to change. Then he made a decision. A decision that would alter the course of history. A decision that would appear unforgivable. A decision driven by desperation. Secretly, information about the resistance camp reached Dutch authorities. The location was revealed. The hiding place was compromised. The hunt was nearly over. When Dutch commanders received the information, they moved quickly. Opportunities like this were rare. They intended to act immediately. Soldiers prepared for the operation. Routes were planned. Orders were issued. The mission began. Deep within the jungle, the resistance remained unaware. The camp carried on as usual. No one realized that danger was approaching. The silence felt deceptive. Then the moment arrived. Dutch forces advanced toward the hidden location. The distance closed rapidly. Time was running out. The resistance could no longer avoid confrontation. The years of hiding and fighting had led to this point. The final chapter was beginning. History was about to turn. When Nyak Dhien realized what was happening, she understood the situation immediately. There would be no easy escape. The odds were overwhelming. Yet even then, she remained composed. She did not panic. She did not beg for mercy. She stood with dignity. The Dutch captured her. After years of resistance, the hunt was over. The empire finally held its most famous enemy, at least physically. To outside observers, it looked like a victory. The resistance leader had been captured. The campaign appeared successful. The story seemed finished. But history often hides deeper truths. What looked like betrayal was more complicated. The follower who revealed her location had acted out of concern. He feared she would continue suffering until death. He feared her condition would worsen. He believed capture might save her life. The decision haunted him forever, and so the greatest twist of her story emerged. The act that appeared to be betrayal may also have been an act of desperate compassion, a painful choice with no perfect outcome. After her capture, Nyak Dhien was removed from the land she loved. The Dutch believed distance would weaken her influence. They believed separation would end her story. They misunderstood what made her powerful. She was sent far from Aceh, far from the forests that had sheltered her, far from the mountains that had witnessed her struggle, far from the people she fought for. For many, exile would have felt like defeat, a final punishment, a lonely ending, a slow disappearance from history. But legends do not disappear so easily. Their strength does not come from location. It comes from memory, and memory travels farther than armies. Life in exile was quiet compared to war. There were no battles to command, no military operations to plan, no jungle hideouts to protect. Yet silence can carry its own challenges. The absence of conflict creates space for reflection. The absence of movement creates space for memory, and memories can be powerful companions. Even far from Aceh, she remained respected. People recognized her wisdom. People listened to her guidance. People admired her resilience. The years of struggle had given her experience few could match. She understood sacrifice. She understood perseverance. She understood courage. Those qualities continued influencing others. Even without a battlefield, she remained a source of inspiration. Her leadership endured. This is where the story takes another unexpected turn. The Dutch had captured her body, but they never captured her legacy. That proved impossible. A military victory can seize territory. It can occupy land. It can imprison opponents. But it cannot easily erase ideas. And Nyak Dhien had become an idea representing resistance, an idea representing courage, an idea representing dignity. Long after battles ended, her name continued to be remembered. Stories about her survived. Generations carried them forward. Children learned about her determination. Communities remembered her sacrifices. Historians documented her achievements. Her influence continued growing. The empire that once hunted her eventually faded into history. Political systems changed. Borders evolved. Time moved forward. Yet her story remained. That alone reveals something remarkable. Power can be temporary. Character can be lasting. Many people assume history belongs to those who win battles. But history often remembers something else. The people who refuse to surrender their principles. The people who stand firm. That is why Nyak Dhien continues to matter. Not because she never suffered defeat. Not because she lived without hardship. But because she persisted despite both. Her life reminds us that courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is continuing despite fear. Continuing despite pain. Continuing despite uncertainty. The strongest people are not always the most powerful. Sometimes they are simply the most determined. The ones who refuse to abandon what they believe. The ones who keep moving forward. And perhaps that is the deepest lesson of her story. True strength is not measured by victories alone. It is measured by endurance. It is measured by conviction. The Dutch feared her because she could not be easily controlled. Her spirit remained free. Her determination remained intact. Her courage remained visible. That is why she became known as the Lioness of Aceh. Not because she ruled with power, but because she faced overwhelming odds and refused to bow. So when history remembers Nyak Dhien, it remembers more than a warrior. It remembers a woman who transformed grief into strength. A woman who turned sacrifice into legacy. And a lioness whose roar still echoes across generations.